Okay. So, Hare Krishna, dear ladies. Welcome to the December Urban Devi Sangha and Women's Discussion Group. And a special welcome to those joining us for the first time. If you are joining us for the first time, please write it in the chat so we can all say hello. I promise we're a very, very welcoming group. And my name is Damodar Priya Devi Dasi, and I co-host this monthly gathering with our dear Rukmini Walker and Surabhi Govinda Devi Dasi. So let me introduce our guest for today. So our guest today is Sita Devi Dasi, who is a qualified dentist and also very passionate about working for the environment, youth, and women. She started the Bhaktivedanta Hospital Youth Foundation, under which she conducted the AIDS awareness counseling program for youth, based on the cultural and traditional value systems of India. From 2006 to 2016, this program impacted almost 50,000 youth. She also initiated other projects such as anti-plastic campaigns and tree plantation drives engaging youth from 50 schools and colleges in Mumbai. Spiritually, she has been a sincere practitioner of Bhakti Yoga for the past 25 years, and Sita Devi Dasi presently heads the Women Empowerment and Skill Development Program for rural women at Ramaswamy's Eco Village outside of Mumbai. This program assists local women with various aspects of life, such as spirituality, health, poverty, and food security. And it also teaches them to make a livelihood through skills such as stitching, painting, handicrafts, and food production. And as a trained dentist, she also gives free treatment and awareness talks about general health and hygiene in the surrounding villages. She conducts workshops and seminars, as well as counseling and psychotherapy sessions, especially for women's issues. So are you excited? I know I am. Wow, what a bio. So today's topic is spiritual women empowerment. Empowered women empower others. Jai. So Vaishnavis are truly empowered by Krishna because they can give direction to all women. And Sita will be speaking more on that. So please, Sita, the floor is yours.
Hare Krishna, am I audible? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarini. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna. I'm really grateful to the Urban Devi team for inviting me for this wonderful session and where I can share my personal journey. And the topic that we are going to discuss today is spiritual women empowerment. And as we know that women empowerment in today's day and age has become like the buzzword, and even the United Nations is really focused towards as women empowerment as one of the goals, sustainability goals that they are achieving. And personally, I would like to share my own journey. This is my 30th year in Krishna consciousness. I joined in 1993. And personally, I have been born in a very pious Indian family, but spirituality, real spirituality came into my life only when I met the devotees, the Hare Krishna devotees. And when I read Srila Prabhupada's books, what really impacted me at that time when I was very new in Krishna consciousness is that Srila Prabhupada gave such equal opportunity for all women and men to progress spiritually and to give Krishna consciousness to others. So one of my earliest services was book distribution, and And me, I felt, as a woman and as a girl, I mean, I joined when I was very young in college, and distributing books as a girl, like on the streets of Mumbai, was such a enlivening experience, because I could see that as women, we could connect to other women so easily, even on the streets. When I would just stop and talk to the women instantly, or even in a mall, and you all must have experienced this, that women have this, like a connection, whether you are Indian or American or any other country, and I have personally seen this, that how women, if you're put together in a room, you immediately connect with each other instantly. Even you just ask, oh, how many children do you have, are you married, and instantly, there is a connection. So uh, I felt that Srila Prabhupada, he saw each one of us as spirit souls, and never saw that there is any limitations for any woman, especially in Krishna consciousness, especially in the spiritual path that we all are in. So, so many times, women feel discouraged, or they feel as if, what can I contribute? What can I do in this world? Or what impact can I create? But personally, I felt that when I joined Krishna consciousness, that was the moment I realized that as a devotee, as a Krishna conscious uh, practitioner, I can create such an impact in my surrounding, in my life, because I could see that people definitely, get impressed, or they get, they get attracted to women who are, really having that spiritual force within them. And when they communicate, it becomes, bhakti becomes very, very, alive. So this is the power that each one of us has. It's like in Indian culture, if you go to see, all the goddesses are women. Lakshmi Devi, she's the goddess of wealth. I mean, the most important department is the finance department. And that's in the hand of, a goddess, Lakshmi Devi. So in Indian culture, women have always been given a very, very important space, and also a lot of respect and responsibility is given on the women. So even in Indian culture, like, I could see that my mother, was always like, though she would be at home, a homemaker, but you could see that she was like the leader, like she was the one who took all the decisions, the major decisions in the house. And it's like as if the whole finances was run by my mother. Whatever limited resources my father would get, the income, she would be so expertly managing that within that, uh, the limitations of the income. And so, so always, I mean, even in India, uh, because I was from a pious family, when I joined Krishna consciousness, I mean, I was lucky, I was fortunate to meet my spiritual master, His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, in my college. He actually came to my dental college, and I met him uh, as a student. And the first thing, the instruction that he gave me, was that, like, you are young and you must take to this Krishna consciousness path seriously. Focus on this, and only then you will be able to rise above the, how our minds, the minds that they create this because of our society or whatever, for women, that you cannot do much, or you are not good enough, or you are, when we are young, these are all the, the mental talk that goes on, which really pulls us back. And when he gave me this, opened up the spiritual path for me, and the knowledge that he gave about us being the spirit soul and not just this body, it kind of opened my mind up, and it kind of overcome so many of my weaknesses, which was like, thinking that I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy enough. I mean, that it really opened my path of self-awakening, that I am a spirit soul and I am a part and parcel of Krishna. And he gave me so many services where I could take the lead, take the responsibilities. And that gave me an understanding that as women and as devotees, we can do so much. We can really create an impact. We can really change the world if we really understand our potential, our hidden potential that is within us. And the potential is not like in today's world, feminism has become like the, it's now actually more of, women trying to force their way, or be aggressive to get their place in the society, or kind of be competing with the men because they feel that they have always been given, the short end of the stick. But seriously, the real femininity or the feminine nature is really already been given by the Lord. So much potential, so much energy, we have. In fact, it is said that women are like the real inspiration for men. Behind every successful man is a woman. But I would say that a spiritual woman, or a woman who is spiritually awakened, is a very, very powerful force to reckon with. In the sense that if we realize our spiritual nature as women, and if we focus on our spiritual qualities, or developing our spiritual connection with the Lord, then we will realize that we are so easily able to overcome our feelings of wanting to take over the men, or kind of take over the position, or the have that aggressive side where we want to prove, that we are feminists. Because if when you are spiritually awakened, you are really in touch with that, the divine feminine side of us. And when we are connected to that side of us, and when we really are connected to Krishna, that's when we will be truly empowered, spiritually empowered. And International Society for Krishna Consciousness is a beautiful institution, or a project which is started by Srila Prabhupada. And he was the first person who really empowered the women. He gave equal opportunity. And, Urban Devi, started by Rukmini Mataji, who is one of the most senior, most disciples of Srila Prabhupada. I mean, you can see her life. She is a living example of how she has always taken her spiritual side, she is empowered mainly because she was given that empowerment by Srila Prabhupada. And she was given that opportunity and that blessings from Srila Prabhupada to connect with Krishna. And because of that, you can see that all throughout her life, she's always been a leader. She's been an example. where people want to follow her example. So that's exactly what each one of us has, that opportunity, has that potential, you know. So, we always joke that women are like bombs, like in India, they say, I mean, they like to say that, oh, she's a bomb, meaning like even when a woman is very attractive, they call her like a bomb. But you understand what a bomb is. It has two sides of it, right? A bomb can destroy because that's nuclear energy. It can destroy everything. Like hell hath no fury that a woman is scorned. If a woman is scorned, the real destructive side is also a part of that energy. But then there is a very, very positive side too. Just like the nuclear energy of a bomb can be utilized in a positive way, to make the lives of people better, to really uh, make it beautiful. So, in the same way, we women, as devotees, spiritual women, we are meant to use our energy in the positive direction. We are meant to give this knowledge of Krishna consciousness to others, to our families, to our children. Women are like the carriers of the culture, the spiritual culture. We are the carriers of spiritual culture, and we can pass this culture down to our daughters, to our children, and in that way to the entire society. So it all depends how women are empowered, how they are nurtured and cared for and given that knowledge. So in society, there is a great need today for such kind of spiritually empowered women. We need that spiritual culture. But sometimes, unfortunately, even in societies like, devotee spiritual societies, we see that somehow women are not connected with each other. They are like, each one of them are, kind of individually struggling in their spiritual paths, individually isolated, and okay, they are with their husbands or with their families, but somehow, because they are alone or they are disconnected with each other, they have to struggle so much. And this is my personal experience during COVID. I realized that during COVID, when we all were so isolated from each other, I found this beautiful Sangha which we formed online, just connecting all the women together. And this happened because I was in my hometown, I was all alone, and I was thinking that, even spiritual life was becoming so difficult as we each one experienced that, that even to keep up with our spiritual activities was such a struggle. And we all were like wanting that connection. And at that time, I saw that the all the devotee women in my hometown earlier, before COVID, I would see that they were so disconnected with each other, and they would like not even want to go for a program. Like if it is like a half an hour drive just to go to a ladies program, they would say, oh, it's like so far. But during COVID, because of, we could connect with everyone online, we started this beautiful program where we were meeting every day for reading Bhagavad Gita. And then once a week, we were getting together to do kind of just an informal Sangha where we could discuss our problems, or we had like a cooking class, something very interesting. And then there was the Kartik month, which came, and we were chanting every day Damodarashtakam. And we realized that so many women were just so attracted to this Sangha, where we could just meet every day, and more women, devotee women, started connecting to this program. And when COVID finished, and we called this Sangha Sakhi for women. Sakhi Sangha was like a Sangha which we formed in my hometown, Hyderabad. And all the devotee women were so connected because we were meeting almost every day, studying Bhagavad Gita and then Bhagavatam. That when COVID got over, and the first time when we had like an offline meeting, we had almost 80 women who came together because we were like dying to meet each other, dying to hug each other. And, it was such a lovely program. And it was like my birthday also. So, my 50th birthday. So, it was like a beautiful connection, celebration of coming together. And it was like, I could feel that energy, like when all devotee women came together, and we were singing kirtan and dancing together, and just hugging and meeting each other. It such a powerful connection, such a powerful energy was created, that at that time there was no like barriers of distance, and after that, every month we had these sanghas, the physical meetings. And we have this sangha even till today. It's almost 3 years. And we once in a month meet, and then we organize like together, all the leaders of that group, we got together and we organized an event called Sakhi Sangha Fest for the first time. And we invited Malti Mataji, Prabhupada disciple, and Radha Mataji and myself. We all gave seminars, and 400 women came for this program. It was like a big event, and all of them paid and they came for this event. And we had beautiful breakfast, lunch, and dinner, a whole one-day program with a wonderful kirtan at the end. And at that time I felt, that so many years, we were all devotees, but we were all so separated from each other, also isolated, like each one just struggling with their own spiritual activities. And and then some kind of differences which their husbands, or in the management or problems. And women were also kind of kept away from each other because of these tensions between people, between devotees sometimes. But everything got evaporated, and this synergy, this energy that was created, I felt that this is what women, spiritual women, need actually. We don't want anything else. We just want to get together, chant Hare Krishna, dance, and inspire each other, and acknowledge each other's contributions in bhakti. Because that's what is lacking. If you go to see all over the world, I mean, whenever I travel and I meet women, I mean, in this time when I was traveling in US, and I was meeting so many of my god sisters, and everywhere, and devotee women were like, I mean, many of them were sharing, they're crying, like there's so much emotional care that they needed, which was completely being, not fulfilled, because they're doing so many services, so much, they're stretching themselves to do so many services, but they are themselves feeling, so disconnected or not emotionally taken care of. So through the Sakhi Sangha, I realized that because women are connected with each other, we could acknowledge each other and appreciate each other's. So we don't have to wait for the men to acknowledge us. We don't need to wait for the men to appreciate our contributions in ISKCON or in Bhakti. If we form these sanghas and if we just come together, we can appreciate each other's contributions, however small they are, and give each other a chance to share their talent, their skills with each other. And that is what is most importantly needed in ISKCON today. that we really need to form these sanghas and expand these sanghas wherever these sanghas are. Urban Devi is this beautiful sangha that has been formed, and it is really expanding and it's connecting to more and more people, more and more women, devotee women all over the world. And I had this realization that because of this Sakhi Sangha, this wonderful event that we organized, and we did another event this year, which was only kirtans, where all women came together and sang kirtan. It attracted so many new women to come because they love to sing, they like to hear good music and dance together. Everyone loves that. So we can attract so many women to join these kind of sanghas. If we are connected, if the women who are practicing Krishna consciousness, if we come together and empower each other, we can create a power that will attract all women to us. I mean, that's what is needed United Nations is talking about women empowerment, but not just in the material sense, but we also need spiritual women empowerment so that we can empower women to really connect with their souls and connect with Krishna within their hearts. Because that's what is the need. That's the only thing which is lacking. Connect to this reservoir of love that is there within our heart so that we can become the mediums of spreading that love and giving that love to others. So personally, I am very, very grateful, and I'm really happy that my Guru Maharaj gave me this service of women empowerment. And this project of women empowerment, which I would like to show a little bit of a presentation talking about the work that we are doing for the really underprivileged rural women who are, so sidelined, so isolated that since years, I think they have never even got an opportunity to really, anyone has not even noticed them. And working for such women and really empowering such women has been such a fulfilling and a happy experience for me, because I have realized that these women, these simple women in the villages, they are truly spiritual, and they are just ready, ready to just share their love and share their simplicity. And through their simplicity, I have seen in Govardhan Eco Village, when the Western modern women come, and I take them to these to our village sanghas, or we call them self-help groups, where they sit with these women, and they are illiterate. They cannot communicate in English, because some of them have only gone to like third standard or fourth standard. They have studied, or some of them are school dropouts, or some have never been to school. But the way I have seen how they, it doesn't matter whether you are educated or not educated. Women, when you put them together and when they do this little bit of an activity together, by the end of it, I would see that the Western woman, the modern women, would be so touched by the simplicity of these women. And by the end of it, they are like, taking selfies together and sitting and chatting together in sign language, or language of love has got no boundaries. You can easily talk to anyone. So they were making hairstyles of each other, and they really connected on a level which is not limiting with their status or their color or their caste or anything. And that I realize is that this is really empowering for women. whether it's the rural women or the modern privileged women. So, so spiritual women empowerment has no boundaries, and it is for everyone. And we really need to focus on that. So, starting with the first, this is just a slide which talks about the sustainable development model of Govardhan Eco Village, being green infrastructure, renewable energy, organic farming, and rural empowerment. And within this rural empowerment, next slide, is what we focus on is women empowerment. Because of all the rural, you can say the demographics, the rural, the men and the children and the women, the needs of the women are something which was most neglected. And personally, I went to the rural villages, Govardhan Eco Village. What inspired me was I was a dentist. I am a dentist by profession. And I would hear so many news, coming about farmers committing suicides. And, it was such a painful phase in the rural Maharashtra because of like drought. There was so much shortage of water that many of the farmers were becoming totally so poverty stricken that they were committing suicides because of loss of crops. And so this really disturbed me, and I had the good fortune to share this with Radhanath Maharaj, and I said that I really want to do something in the villages. And he said at that time that that's exactly the project that we are starting very soon in the villages, the Govardhan Eco Village. And he started the Prayag project, which is the Sangam of Ganga, Yamuna, and Saraswati. And Ganga stands for women empowerment, improving rural empowerment, improving the livelihoods of the rural people. Yamuna stands for the spiritual empowerment, giving spiritual knowledge and helping the women, the rural people to connect with God, those kind of activities. And Saraswati stands for education, giving education and medical help to the rural people. And that was the need of the hour, because 55% of the population are below poverty line. They are like the tribals who have been really neglected since many, many years. 60% school dropouts, so there was rampant illiteracy, and 50% households have no running water. There really was a great need, and 70% children were malnourished. So that was the most deprived community. So the only way I could go there was as a dentist, So I first started volunteering to go twice a week to GV, to that area, the tribal area in the villages. And we had a small medical center. So I started my dental clinic there, which is still running now. And as I was treating people's teeth, I was also meeting the women. And when I was meeting the women in the villages, I could see that they were so eager, they were eager to contribute, to help, to alleviate the poverty situation that they were in. And they were struggling because the husbands would leave them and go to the city half the year because there was no work, no water, so there's no farming to be done. So they had to leave and go to the villages, to the cities, and they were left to fend for themselves. And there was no support. So the first thing that we did, we started a program which was started by the government actually, called the SHG, which is a self-help group. So we got all these women together to form a group who lived close by to each other and start a system where they would contribute or save every month a little bit of the money, whatever money they can save, and pool in that money and put in the bank. So we would go to their homes, sit with them in their homes, and tell them that how important it is that women should get together and help each other. This pooled in money would be put in the bank, and in case when someone's child gets sick, or there is a problem, or somebody needs money for some skill like teaching education for their children, or some medical crisis, then they can help each other with that money. And then the next thing was teaching them skills. So the skill development was a major need, and the women were ready. They were saying, "Please teach us some skills so that we can earn money, so that we can contribute to our families." So this today, I mean that this was in 2013, almost 10 years back when I started the women empowerment in this small way. We had started with 6 self-help groups, and then it went on to today there are 250 self-help groups who are connected with us. And we today, like during COVID, the first skill development center is open now. It is a 75,000 square feet institute, mainly for women and youth, tribal youth, to learn various skills. So most of the skills that we are teaching the women are cooking, stitching, jewelry making, and some handicraft making, and pickles and cooking products. So these are the main skills that we are teaching the rural women. So earlier we used to meet in these kind of small groups and teach them in the villages, but now we are fortunate that we have this wonderful skill center, and Radhanath Maharaj has named it Govardhan Skill Center. So health was next slide. Health is a major area where the women were completely not having any kind of support. So these are the different products that we started making, and we are now making in this Govardhan Skill Center. And we empower the women because these village women are very shy. We have to give them exposure so that they can go and themselves uh, market their products. So we have these exhibitions where we take these women and they themselves market these products. So next, so their products are now being even taken to US and out of country, out of India. So next slide. So this, we have our institute now, and we have batches of these tribal women who are now coming and getting trained in tailoring and cooking and all these different skills that I have told you. And as I was telling you, health and hygiene and sanitation was something during COVID, we realized that it was the need of the hour for the rural villages because there are no doctors. And during COVID, no doctor was ready to come to the village. So there was a great need. So we started this Arogya Ashraya project, where Arogya is for health, hygiene, and sanitation, and Ashraya is for emotional and mental and spiritual care for the women. So we started a Sevika course or a training, basic rural healthcare course, which was teaching them basic health hygiene practices like awareness about COVID and other infections and fevers, how to take care during emergencies. And we also trained them about menstrual hygiene and care, which is very neglected in the rural villages. We taught them how to make sanitary pads and masks at that time during COVID. But sanitary pads are something which is the major source of pollution in the rural areas. So we developed a sanitary pad which is made up of cotton cloth, which is reusable and washable. And we created a sangha, like these groups where their emotional care and mental care could also be taken care of. And we had these beautiful, next slide, spiritual festivals where we would give them the ashra module. We take care of their, we do emotional and spiritual care. If they have domestic problems or, anxiety, or we give spiritual talks, and we celebrate festivals because they are very simple women. Next slide. They love festivals. That is the way we can, help them. So economic empowerment, education, skill amplification, and healthcare. These are the 4 pillars of women empowerment that we are focusing on. Next slide. So this is a humble offering, and we really invite each one of you, all the women, whether they are living in the West or living in India, if you could please, connect with this women empowerment program. And we can expand this women empowerment program, which is only in the rural area. And now we can focus on empowering women spiritually all over the world. As devotee women, we really need to connect with each other so that we can appreciate and acknowledge each other's contributions and help each other to be happy in Krishna consciousness, because Srila Prabhupada only gave this instruction to all of us: chant and be happy. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Sita. And we already have questions coming in, which we'll definitely be addressing after our breakout groups. So thank you, Martine, for writing that question in the chat. We'll definitely ask that to Sita afterwards. So now we're going to be going into breakout groups so that we can discuss more intimately. Started. Okay, so our Q&A and reflection section. So if you have a question for Sita Devi Dasi or a reflection from breakouts, please raise your virtual hand. We would really love to hear from you. So who would like to start first? Oh, we already have it. And Sherry, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. I just wanted to thank you, Sita, so much for sharing what you're doing. It's really inspiring, and I want to learn more about it. I want to get more information about it, just take a little more time to absorb it. I guess I was sharing in the breakout room that I really I was hosting a monthly sangha, women's sangha, at my temple for a little over a year, and I'm taking a break right now, just because I feel like I would really love some guidance on a lot of things. I felt like I was sort of getting in over my head as far as being a leader, because I have never led a women's sangha before, and it came together very organically, and it was something I felt excited about. But I guess I was really trying to form a collective of women, where all the women were coming together and really sharing experiences, sharing knowledge. And it sort of turned into, me being like the leader and planning things, and the women not necessarily wanting to take on any interaction, it became a lot, just because I felt like I was flailing in providing very meaningful content. It started to become, and these things were great. Like, we did arts and crafts together. We did things where we came together, and then we could talk about spiritual things while we were doing that. But I felt like I was floundering, and I also was having not really an issue, but I really wanted to bridge, like in my temple, there's a bit of a divide between the Western women and the Indian-bodied women. And as I was saying in our group, it's not like anything, there's no animosity, like we all like respect each other, we talk to each other, but you know, when it came to the women's Sangha meetings, I found the Indian-bodied women didn't seem as interested. And I really wanted it to be a little more embracing of both of our cultures, because I feel like we have, as Western women, so much to learn from the Indian-bodied women in the temple, you know? So I guess my question is, as somebody who's new to leading a women's Sangha, you know, what are some resources? Where are some or what are some thoughts on you know, being successful in that endeavor?
So I'll share you my experience about this Sakhi Sangha. The first thing we did was make a Sangha of the leaders first. If you become a part of another Sangha, like all the leaders together, when you connect with other women leaders, then you can share your resources, share your experiences, what you're doing with each other's, you know, groups. And it also keeps you inspired, you know, because you see that there are others and you have a support system yourself. When you are a leader, you're giving so much of yourself to the women, and they are like kind of, you know, you are planning and you are doing everything. But at a time, you also need that care and you also need that support. That's why it is very needed. This is one point which I wanted to say in my talk, is that in ISKCON, we really need the leaders, the women leaders, to get together first. Actually, I feel every devotee woman is a leader, because she has been specifically chosen by Krishna to be a part of Krishna consciousness movement, which is like the movement which can, you know, change people's lives. But even among them, there are some people who take greater responsibility, and they are like, you know, taking the lead, taking the responsibility. They need to come together first. So in fact, personally, presently in ISKCON, I really feel that the women leaders of different sanghas, like the Urban Devi leaders Sangha, should, you know, connect with the Sakhi Sangha leaders, and, you know, we kind of share with each other, because then you can get inputs about how to deal with Indian women, what is their mindsets, how to connect, how to bring them in. You know, there is some things we can share with each other which will help, you know, to connect everyone on the same platform. And this little bit of divide, this difference will be there in cultures, but in Krishna consciousness, we can bridge that if we are able to connect with each other and, you know, bring them in gradually. But for that, you need to be also having that constant energy to put in, you know, so you need that care also. So feel free to connect to me, and I am connected to other sanghas, other women leaders, and I could probably invite you and anyone else who would like, you know, to get these leaders, women leaders, to meet more often. I was going to ask Rukmini Mataji, you know, that somehow we need to connect women all over the world, women leaders first, out of all over the world. So if any of one of you can help with this endeavor, which I really want to do, then we can do that together.
Thank you,
Next.
Shari. And thank you, Sita, for that. And I actually also put in the chat, for those of you who are not already in our WhatsApp groups, we have a discussion WhatsApp group where we can all talk together in Urban Devi Sangha, and we also have an announcement group. So if you haven't joined that, that would be great, because that's a great way to network and kind of just come together as leaders. And I also just wanted to make sure she doesn't have her virtual hand up, but Martine had asked the question before. So Martine, if you wouldn't mind unmuting and asking your question that you had put in the chat, would really appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. My question was more for with regard to literacy, and I know, I think India, as part of its planning, which is a Herculean task to eradicate illiteracy all across India. So when you think about all the people living in the streets, all the homeless, what we would call homeless here, but all the people who are without shelter, and all the children. I mean, I was in India with Lori in October on a pilgrimage. It is hard for us I mean, we have homelessness here, so it's a different dimension, I think. And also because of the cultural divide, whether we want it or not, that exists, or the spiritual divide, on the society organizational components that are, millenniums old, and that through these sanghas we are trying to overcome, right? So how do you, and I know that in your presentation you addressed literacy, because
Yes, that's a major, one of the pillars that we are working on.
yeah,
So
because,
in women empowerment, we
Mhm.
have a project which is we selected the rural women, girls, young girls, and we trained them as teachers. So we have a teachers training program for rural women where they are trained as kindergarten teachers, because in the villages, as you said, because the parents are farmers, most of the time the children are neglected because they are working in the fields, and the children don't get very good opportunities for education. So it's usually neglected. So we trained group of girls from the village, trained them as teachers, and started training the small children from the age of 6 up to the age of 6, the kindergarten age group, in the form of teaching them through through songs and through practical art and craft, like more hands-on, because that part, most of the children never got that facility. So we are building a whole program in the villages where these trained teachers are now going to each village and training the children from very young age to give a good foundation to their, so that then they can progress better in the field of developing their literacy and other skills. So
how do you, yeah, and the other part of the question for me was, certainly addressing illiteracy when they are young is like crucial, because you're creating a new generation of people who are going to be able to function in a very different way in society, right? How do you address, or how can one address illiteracy in adult women in rural area? Teaching them, teaching them skills, of course, it's crucial. Finances, but how can one address that illiteracy? Because I think it's completely changed the playing field, even for them at that point, with however many children they have, whatever the dynamic is with the husband, arranged marriage, etc., etc., etc. Is that being addressed in that model that you talked about?
So adult women literacy, in the sense training, giving them education is very difficult, because they are not in that, the structure, the social structure is such that they are not having any time for learning or studying. But we are planning to start teaching them very basic, like signing, at least learning how to sign their own names, like the most basic things.
Because that's crucial. They are able to read a form, for example, basic reading skills to be able to function. Because it goes back to what you said, if the husband dies, right, and he knows how to read, or he is the one taking care of all that aspect of life that we all deal with all over the world, right? We all have, and it leaves them in a very even more precarious situation. So I don't know if there is like a basic ABC in Hindi, you know, to a program in place to have them basically be able to read basically and outside of signing their name, you know. So I think because
Yeah,
that's
that
a huge
is it.
step, right? That is a huge step.
That's a huge step, and it's a huge project. Yeah, and I mean, it's a project by itself. But yes, hopefully, if we get some support, then we can start that also. You know, as of now, we have this program where we are training rural women to become teachers. So we are hoping that these women can take up this project in their own villages and teach, you know, women also.
That's great. And thank you so much, Martine, for your questions. And Sita Devi Dasi. And actually, as somebody who, not exactly, my mom was illiterate, but my mom wasn't literate in English. So I learned English as a second language. And I know that in me coming home, having learned English, I ended up teaching my mother because as I was showing her my homework and things, my mom learned. So a lot of times it could be a very kind of around the way to teach the children. But we have Karuna Shakti.
Yeah, in fact, that
patient.
is one of my dreams of, that is one of the projects which we are thinking of doing, which is spoken English program. So we are waiting for some funding from, and once that gets through, this is one of the first programs, because in the villages, this is what everyone wants, you know, the girls, young girls want to learn at least few spoken English so that they can get better opportunities for work, you know.
That's great.
That's the Thank
so we
you.
have
Thank
Karuna Shakti, who has been patiently waiting this whole time. So Karuna Shakti, please unmute yourself. What is your question or reflection?
Hi, Krishna. So my reflection actually was with the Rukmini Prabhu. We were talking about how one of the biggest, most discouraging things that women face are how Prabhupada's words are misused. And especially we're talking about literacy, where there's a very famous letter quoted where Prabhupada says, you should only teach them ABCs and then domestic housework. So I was actually, wondering if Sita Prabhu and Rukmini Prabhu could, share something about, how do we deal with that? Because ultimately Prabhupada is the center. And when Prabhupada's words are being weaponized, how do we deal with this?
Should I try to answer that, or should I take that on? Is that Sita? Do you want to say something?
Even I want to. I'm waiting to hear from you, Rukmini Mataji. Please, I've been waiting to hear from you.
Okay, well, I'll just. What I would like to say to that is that I feel like when devotees hear Prabhupada's statements or read his letters, they're taking things out of context, because what I was saying to Karuna Shakti in our little small group is, for example, Prabhupada writes a letter to New Vrindavan, where they're farmers, like you have at the eco village, they're farmers, and he's saying the women should learn to milk cows, and they should, be doing these domestic things. But then this, 5 days later, he writes a letter to Boston Temple, where he says, I want all my sons and daughters to be distributing my books. They should all be trained as preachers. So we tend to take things out of context that Prabhupada says, where he's speaking to a certain context and he's not speaking to everyone everywhere. And I hope that's helpful, Karuna Shakti. Karuna Shakti, do you want to say something about the 16 days of activism? Because I think that's really wonderful. It's a UN initiative that some of you have taken on for ISKCON. Can you talk about what you've done and give people a link to find out about that?
Hare Krishna. Okay, so the United Nations runs a campaign every year called 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. So, starting last year, the ISKCON Vaishnavi Ministry started our own campaign targeted to the ISKCON audience. And this year we framed our campaign as 16 Days of Activism for Safer Families, also focusing on the connection between abuse of women and abuse of children. And so if you go onto the ISKCON Vaishnavi Ministry Facebook page or the YouTube channel, under YouTube, there's also the community tab where it basically functions like Facebook with the posts and things. And you'll see all of a large part of the campaign was sharing direct quotes from Srila Prabhupada, from his letters, his purports, in full context of the things that Prabhupada says. And a lot of the response that we've heard is like, I've never heard this quote from Prabhupada before. And so a lot of it was just putting focus on Srila Prabhupada's direct words and what he did, how he defined protection of women, and also how he defined the responsibility of men. And we've also had some panel discussions. So there's 8 new panel discussions that that's new content that we organized this year. And then we've also shared a series of lectures from various other devotees over the years on just respecting women, on what does it mean to have healthy relationships, healthy family relationships, qualities of a Vaishnavi, and also shorter videos along the same line. So it's a lot of educational material, but very grounded within Srila Prabhupada. Everything is rooted in what is the culture that Srila Prabhupada envisioned for this family that he envisioned. He said ISKCON is a family. We talk about Prabhupada building a house where everyone can live in, that everyone can live in. What is the culture that Prabhupada envisioned? And there's nowhere that you can convince anyone that Prabhupada supported abuse of anyone. He didn't tolerate it. I think Rukmini Prabhu, there's an incident where there was a stage program and some men were harassing the girls, grabbing at their legs, and Prabhupada himself ran and hit the men with his walking stick. The 70-year-old man ran to the defense of young girls and physically assaulted people. That is how passionate he was about protecting women. And you cannot convince me that Prabhupada in any way supported the mistreatment of women in any way. So I'm rambling now, but the ISKCON Vaishnavi Ministry Facebook page and the YouTube channel, you can have a look there. All of the content, there's a lot of content. There's even some outside content. There's these really cool cartoons about boundaries, really powerful, little snippets. So yeah, you can check that out there on those 2 places.
And Damodar Priya, you just put the link in the chat, right?
Yes, I've put both links in the chat, and they're going to be shared in the WhatsApp groups as well, and I'll put them in the description of today's talk on YouTube. And we also have another question. Sorry,
thank you,
Sita.
Karuna Shakti. I wanted to just really thank Karuna Shakti and the ISKCON Vaishnavi Ministry. And your ramblings are, like really music, because this is such a need, that you are all taking up this cause for, and I really like that everything is grounded on Prabhupada's words, because I think it's high time that we weaponize Prabhupada's words to convince the men in this movement that it's high time now that you cannot try to shut down women or try to abuse in any ways the position of women in ISKCON. We are here to stay, and we are here to make a statement that together, when women come together, I don't think this, people, that's why I think they're threatened that women in ISKCON, if all the devotee women come together, then, they are really worried, because that is the power which is needed now, because we really need to take the mood of Srila Prabhupada, like how he himself came in the defense of women. We all need to come together so that we can create, a movement now within our ISKCON movement, where women have been given their true position and as leaders. And as Mataji said, Rukmini ji, you said that never Srila Prabhupada, even if this is misquoted in such a way, because he always gave you and so many other leaders, senior Matajis, such responsible positions, like leadership positions in ISKCON. So how can people misquote Prabhupada like that, and today in this modern day and age use that quote to really pull down or push back women, because that's not right.
Thank you. That's great. There's one more question, right?
Yes, we have a question from Surabhi. Govinda Devi Dasi, our dear co-host. Surabhi, please unmute.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I want to address the point that Sherry brought up earlier, and then also somewhat reflect on what Karuna Shakti is working on. You know, the sad part is that we've been all brought up in a patriarchal society, and many women are not where we are. Group city, we're assuming that we're all working from a point where all the women feel we need help and that there's this issue or problem. But unfortunately, that might not be the case, especially if, you know, there's many examples where women don't necessarily think there's anything wrong. So one of the first things they have to do is really educate other women on why there's a need. Having played the role for diversity in corporate for 10 years at, you know, in Silicon Valley here, it was the same problem. Believe it or not, this strikes everybody as probably being why, because your view of the world is already where it needs to be, but that's not the case. So the first is convincing women to believe that there is something, and they often then will say, well, you know, they'll think, is it because you don't have a husband, because you've had a problem? Because, you know, it's very basic human condition thinking. So you have to think like that. And then you have to explain, well, that's not the case. No, I'm talking about these women who, you know, like in India, they're exploited, right? Or other countries, even here, there's women exploited. And you'll see women who are, I've got friends who are extremely wealthy who succumb to the man for what they want to buy, what they want to do, right? So it happens everywhere. It's everywhere. It crosses all cultures. So the first thing is to really educate. And then the empowerment is often coming to the fact that declaring that women don't have to be like men. The goal is not that we become leaders and replicate what the male model is. In fact, we don't want to. We want to be the opposite type of leaders to who they are. The second is we want women to support women. They don't right now. This happened, Sherry, this happens in corporate culture too. All right, believe it or not, the most educated women with 10 degrees, you still have a hard time. So this is a mental model shift. It's not an educational shift. Literacy is required because you have to have the ability to stepwise, but it's a mental model shift. So there's a different handling for mental shifts, all right? It's really getting to an emotional level, not to a mental level on that one. The third is really embracing our feminine perspective. You know, the biggest examples, and Bhakti really is the best example of this, is the gopis. They were wholly feminine. Yeah. For me, I look to them as a role model in my corporate world. The fact that there was an expectation that I should be like a man, I always destroyed it. You know, if you want to think about it, not as a gopi, you can think about it as Superwoman with her hands on the laps, you know, and standing there, all beautiful and everything, but hands on the hips, and, you know, like that. You can think of it like that. And it's a great visual. These visuals are great when we're trying to address points. So really, what I'm saying is we have to step back. And the education we need for young girls is that mental, set up mentally to be successful, not to compare themselves with men, because comparison is the thief of joy. It's the thief for women of their future. So we need to do that, you know. So I'm just saying, like, somehow we need that education more about giving that confidence. Unfortunately, that's where we are. It's been like Martina was talking, we've been in this struggle for a long time. Inside ISKCON, outside of ISKCON, everywhere. And it continues. So it's a fight for everybody, like, you know, not a physical fight, but a mental fight. Actually, some actions we don't need to do. Mentally, we can be stronger by understanding these things. So, sorry, I have a lot of passion in this topic, so just brought it all out.
No, thank you so much for your passion. And unfortunately, we are running out of time, dear Vaishnavis. So because we have this limited time once a month, I just want to again encourage all of you who don't join us on the WhatsApp groups, please join us on the WhatsApp groups. This is a way to kind of continue this Sangha so that we can continue kind of encouraging and supporting each other. So I've put that information in the chat. And now we would like to hear from our dear Rukmini Walker, who's going to tell us more of what we have to look forward to. But thank you so much, Sita Devi Dasi. We're so appreciative of your association.
Thank you, Sita. Thank you for all the work you're doing to uplift women. It's really, really inspiring. So I wanted to say that our next Urban Devi Sangha, if you'd like to put it on your calendars, is January 21st. And we're going to be hearing from a woman from South Africa who was raised under apartheid. And her topic is, Who Am I? And the devastation of discrimination. She says she'll share her own story of being raised in an apartheid country and how identification of the self as the body is the seed of discrimination. She says, together we will explore and unpack our conscious and unconscious biases. So that's brilliant. And I wanted to say, please also, if put on your calendars if you can, April, we're having a women's retreat, April 14th to 21st, coming up 2024. And the theme is it's just for women, a women's retreat. It's going to be in Cali, Colombia. Please join us. The rates are very reasonable. And the theme is reset, reconnect, and realign. And we have an early bird discount. If you sign up before the end of the year, before December 31st, the prices will go up $100 after the first of the year. So please, Damodar Priya, you're going to put the link
yes, I've already put it in the chat. Yeah, and in the WhatsApp.
Chat, and then in the WhatsApp group. So please join us for Reset, Reconnect, and Realign, a women's retreat in Cali, Colombia. And looking forward to seeing you all January 21st next month. And thank you so much, dear Sita, for your beautiful leadership and empowerment of women.